Hi, it's Mike DelSignore. I'm in my office here today. I want to talk about a case that Massachusetts Supreme Court will be deciding, Commonwealth versus Gastucci. This is an interesting case because it's a possession of child pornography case where the issue was whether the search warrant was valid that led to the seizure of the images. In this case, the defendant uploaded, and that the difference between an upload and a download is going to be important in the case, some images to Skype. So the defendant, he lost his motion to suppress. There was a warrant. The images were seized, and he then appealed. He took a plea and then appealed the denial of the motion to suppress. And it was actually it wasn't multiple images, but it was one image in this case. And that's an important distinction in the case law too, as to how much material is uploaded or downloaded. So the issue in this case is that 7 months went by before the police executed the warrant. So the defense lawyer argued the police sat on the evidence in that you can't be sure that that computer is still going to be at the house. There's no longer probable cause 7 months later and there was no evidence the investigation was ongoing. So you had a few things at play here where you had the police not immediately executing a warrant, which isn't completely uncommon. A lot of times they'll want to continue their investigation. They probably wanted to see if he was going to download additional images. He was probably being monitored to see where all this would lead. So 7 months later, then they execute the warrant, and the argument before the court is that the information is now stale. And in drug cases, when police do a search warrant in a drug case, for example, they'll generally do a control buy and then apply for the search warrant. And because the drugs can come and go from houses, material or information can become stale fairly quickly in a drug case. Now, if it's a search for a gun, the court is a little more forgiving. So it depends on what is at issue and how mobile the information is, or how mobile the product is that's being searched, in terms of how the court will define what is stale. So with computers, at the oral argument, the court mentioned, there's evidence from other cases where experts testified that nothing really ever gets deleted from computer files. Unless you're a very sophisticated user, you can't delete anything. Even if you hit delete, it's not technically deleted. It can always be recovered. So because people generally tend to keep computers for a long time and the information can't be deleted, the argument is that the probable cause is longer in a child pornography case versus in a drug case. And there's some federal cases. Massachusetts hasn't addressed this yet, so this will be the first case from our state Supreme Court on this issue. There's some federal cases that suggest the probable cause essentially is almost indefinite, that you have forever probable cause. And Justice Gaziano in the oral argument seemed to shy away from that. But he did mention, the federal cases say that because people tend to hoard and collect these images, and computers can store them forever and ever, that there's really a long duration of probable cause. I think the court's probably going to say 7 months, that the information isn't stale, but I think our court will try to define a standard in this case. And in this case, I think the one key element working against the defendant was the fact that it was uploaded versus downloaded. An image that's uploaded suggests the person has knowledge of its contents, and someone realistically wouldn't share an image they didn't know what it was. Where if it was downloaded, then the idea is that the person could have unknowingly, unwittingly clicked on something and might not necessarily know the contents. But when you upload something, I think the court was suggesting it suggests a greater ownership or greater knowledge of the material. So with that, our court will. Another issue in the case was this issue of when the information becomes stale, and I think a separate issue was, how much knowledge of computers do we attribute to our clerk magistrate? So a clerk magistrate gets an affidavit that's generally supposed to rely just on the affidavit to determine if there's probable cause. the four corners of the affidavit. But with computers, child pornography, this type of affidavit, a lot of the information was being assumed that the clerk magistrate would know that these files aren't going to get deleted, how things are stored. So the technological aspect of it wasn't quite spelled out in the affidavit based on my reading, my interpretation of the oral argument. So that could be a grounds for them to uphold the motion and suppress. But I think on the merits of the issue, it appears that the federal case law is very forgiving on this issue of staleness. Our court didn't want to go that way. I think our court will craft a test that does put some outer limits on it. But this is a major issue in these cases, child pornography. If you have some questions about these cases, feel free to call me. They generally revolve around very technical issues of search and seizure law. Oftentimes that's the major defense in the case, and that was in this case as well. So my name is Michael DelSignore. Feel free to contact me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, if you have any questions about this or any other issue relating to criminal defense.